Welcome to today's 5-minute Bible study in the book of Deuteronomy. Today we're looking at Deuteronomy chapter 15, verses 19 through 23. Now this is the final paragraph of the chapter, and it deals with the offering of the firstborn males of your flock, the firstborn males of your herds and of your flocks. And notice what it says. Set apart for the Lord your God every firstborn male of your herds and your flocks. Do not put the firstborn of your cows to work. Do not shear the firstborn of your sheep. Each year, you and your family are to eat them in the presence of the Lord your God at the place he will choose. Now, if an animal has a defect, is lame or blind, or has any serious flaw, you must not sacrifice it to the Lord your God. You are to eat it in your own towns. Both the ceremonially clean and unclean may eat it, as if it were gazelle or deer. But you must not eat the blood. Pour it out on the ground like water. Now notice the firstborn males of your herds and your flocks belongs to the Lord. It is a sacrifice to the Lord. You are not to work them. You are not to use them. You are not to make profit off of them. They belong to the Lord. He claims the firstborn male of your flocks and your herds. Now this is a reminder of how he redeemed them from Egypt. You remember the firstborn males of the Egyptian household were lost in the night of the Passover, but Israel was redeemed. And so each year you would take the firstborn males of your herd, your flocks, you were to take them to the place where the sanctuary was established, where the tabernacle was, and there you were to sacrifice the firstborn to the Lord your God. The first always belongs to God. Now notice this sacrifice is a fellowship meal. You are to eat it. Remember, we've talked about this before. Generally, when you bring an offering to the Lord, a fellowship offering, it is sacrificed. A portion of it is burned on the altar. A portion is given to the priest as his share, but then the rest you consume, or the family eats it at the tabernacle. You eat it in the presence of the Lord. So it is a fellowship meal, a moment of worship. But the point is clear. The firstborn belongs to the Lord. We always give him that which is first in our life. The only exception is you are not to offer any animal that has a defect or is handicapped in some way or has a flaw. Our offerings to the Lord must always be our best. The firstborn of the flocks and the herds, and the best that we have is given to the Lord. And one more thing is mentioned. You are not to eat the blood. The blood is to be poured out on the ground like water. Now, the reason for this is that the Old Testament says that the life of a creature is in the blood. And so the life of every creature belongs to God. And you remember that. It's God who gives life. It is God who takes it away. And by pouring out the blood, by not eating the blood or drinking the blood, you are to remember that the life belongs to the Lord. But these animals, the firstborn, the best you have, is to be offered to God in sacrifice. And then you are to eat it in a great fellowship meal as you worship the Lord. Remember, when we worship the Lord, we always offer him the first and the best of our lives. The best, the first, always belongs to God. You know, sometimes we're tempted in giving our offerings and giving our sacrifices in giving the leftovers. No, that's not really a good idea. We don't want to give God the leftovers. We want to give him that which is first. We give him the firstborn, not that which is left over. And this is what's reminded of this in this annual sacrifice of the firstborn of their herds and their flocks. Join us tomorrow as we continue our study in Deuteronomy. We'll start looking at chapter 16. And in chapter 16, Moses begins to give instructions on the various festivals that the Israelites were to worship, the festivals of Passover and such. So we'll begin to look at those tomorrow in chapter 16. So join us then for our next 5-minute Bible study in the book of Deuteronomy.